Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Wind Waker Unflooded. If you're new to the channel, as always, this is a 3D modeling fan art project where we are reimagining the land of Hyrule in the art style of the Wind Waker. Of course, you know, if you've played Wind Waker, you know that all the islands of the Great Sea are secretly the mountaintops of Hyrule. But we never get to see much of Hyrule in the game. We get to see those islands, and we get to see a small part of Hyrule near the castle. But there's this whole world that we're basically told is out there but are never shown. And so this 3D modeling project is about using the islands, using the castle, putting it all together, figuring out what the entire world would look like. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed y'all's comments, and so feel free to comment down below any of your ideas about the project. I'll just go ahead and get that out of the way. I want to hear what you have to say as you're watching. If you have any ideas, feedback, criticisms, concerns, positive or negative criticism, send it my way. Make your voice heard, because I am listening. I read as many comments as I can. So I just getting that all that out of the way. This is Wind Waker Unflooded. So we have a pretty fun kind of special episode in a way today, I think. Like, this was a location maybe you'd heard me talk about on the channel before, but we're finally actually bringing it to life. So I had this idea maybe about a month ago. It's been a couple weeks, and I was like, man, what if there's a museum where we can display custom art, display artifacts, you know, just a place where you can kind of have a cultural center for some of these places, for some of these exhibits, right? I don't know, like, I had a vision of, like, you know, fan art there, and already I've been really lucky to receive both art and 3D models for the museum. And so I don't know if you're seeing it on screen yet. Probably not. I'm probably starting with I'm not watching the time lapse as you are, but I'm sure I'm just starting with the structural stuff. And even that was like something to figure out. You know, I was trying to figure out, like, what is the look of the museum, and that's why it kind of took me a second to start on it. But then I was like, well, let me you know, maybe inspired by the Parthenon, let me kind of move in that direction. There's a garden in the middle. I like those ideas, and kind of that helped ground me and kind of helped kind of give me a kind of a you know, inform my creative decisions. Sometimes it just takes a little inspiration, and sometimes it takes time to find something that can direct me, and just kind of that inspiration rooted me enough to go like, okay, that's my museum. I can move forward with that. And so, yeah, I like that look, and I think it's something that, you know, I don't know if we've seen a kind of Parthenon look in a lot of modern 3D Zeldas. Like, we saw it in kind of like the Adventures of Link and Zelda 2, right? But it's something, you know, and kind of like in the background of, what's that Smash Bros. Stage, right? That's just called like Hyrule Temple, right? It's like that has kind of a, those ancient buildings have kind of a Parthenon look. And I've always been interested in that stage, right? And, you know, I mean, that's a whole conversation there about, like, the lore implications of Smash Brothers Hyrule Temple. That's a whole thing. We don't have to get into that. But I do think it's interesting because it's such a unique place that is, like, kind of based on, like, the temples from the Adventures of Link. And it's like, I think it's interesting because I don't think it's meant to be a floating island lore-wise. I think just Smash Bros. Fundamentally is kind of a game about hopping from platform to platform as you fight. So floating islands are kind of a result of that gameplay philosophy. That's my understanding. But comment down below what you think the lore implications are for Hyrule Temple. Because it's something that, you know, I remember in the, you know, before Tears of the Kingdom released, and I was thinking about floating islands, and it's like, well, yeah, like, there have been floating islands throughout the series. In small ways, you know, and you can look at that Smash Bros. Stage, you look at Skyloft, you look at Twilight Princess's City in the Sky, there's the Minish Cap, all these different kind of instances of floating islands. Like, it is kind of a theme, and so I don't know, but it's like they get interpreted in different ways, and to me, I just think it's interesting to compare it with that stage. I don't know, I think it's interesting. I don't know, like what Smash Brothers borrows from Zelda. I think it's interesting the perspective that the Smash Bros. Series has, because it's like sometimes I feel like they get it, and then sometimes they go in their kind of own direction. I go, huh, this is interesting. I don't know. I'm still rooting for Toon, Ganondorf, and Smash. I guess I want the two swords. Imagine how fun it would be to play as Ganondorf but have 2 swords. You know, bring Wind Waker Ganon to Smash. Anyway, I mean, I love the Wind Waker Ganondorf boss fight, you know, and I love his design with the swords. I think it's so much fun to fight him, and even though it is a very scripted battle, I think it's a load of fun, and it's something I've said before. I think it's like I almost wish that was something that you could encounter just like in the overworld, that like you could go to a random enemy camp and it's like, oh, Ganondorf, you're here? And like you fight him for a second, then he disappears. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be a game designer, but to me it's like, I really like what, you know, spoiler alert for Tears of the Kingdom, I like what it does with its Phantom Ganon battles. And to me, those are like really engaging to stumble upon, but I don't know. I've said too much. I know people are still playing Tears of the Kingdom, so I don't want to say too much. But I think with that in mind, it's time for a short break. So I'll talk to all of you after this short message.
If you want to be able to support me as a creator, there's several ways that you can do that. Become a member on Patreon. It gives you access to exclusive bonus features and early access content in all of my filmmaking projects. Stuff like early access to scripts that I'm writing, storyboards, previs, rough cuts, and music that I compose. I'm a composer, and any music that you've heard in the background of this video was my music. So go to Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you listen to music and type in Joe Kendrick. That's JoeKendrick. Look up Joe Kendrick on Spotify.
And we're back. I always have to remind you how you can support me as a creator. It means the world to me. You know, become a member on Patreon. That means so much to me. There you can find, you know, exclusive behind the scenes access to all kinds of bonus features, including music I compose, and you can listen to it early. And it's like I always plug it just because it's like I don't make ad revenue from this channel. If you see an ad on this video, YouTube's making the ad revenue, not me. I don't make a single cent from Wind Waker Unflooded. I think that's the right thing to do. I think it's right to have it be not monetized. So yeah, I think like with that in mind, it's just I would love for, you know, I love the videos getting views, but if you want to be able to support me as a creator, becoming a member on Patreon or listening to my music on Spotify, those are ways that you can support me directly. Or, you know, I also have a Ko-fi page if you want to donate through Ko-fi. So those are all ways you can support me. All of those mean they mean a lot to me, and I've been really thankful to everyone who's donated so far. That really helps make things possible. And speaking to things I'm thankful for, I think it's time to go ahead and talk about some of this art. I don't know if you're seeing like a little bit on screen, but I think it's about time. So let's talk about this, because I just want to shout out these creators. Of course, I've got some 3D art by Callum's Army, who did the Temple of Time that you saw recently. That was a huge help. And he made the Four Swords statue, and some of those assets like the Hylian shield and the Picori blade and the Bigoron sword. Those are great museum pieces. I'm so excited to showcase them here. And there's also some tapestry art by Mark Speranza and Mitchell Turek. Huge shout out to these contributors. I love these tapestries. They really, you know, I just did like a message on the community page and was like, hey, like I'm looking for any artist that can replicate the feel of the Wind Waker tapestries from the prologue, right? Looking for some original art in that style for the project. You know, hit me up if you're interested. I just thought it would be so cool to see that art style depicting events from other Zelda games that took place before Wind Waker on the timeline, right? Recapping the events of Skyward Sword, of the Minish Cap, of some other events before Ocarina of Time, like Link's birth that is now mythologized, for instance. I mean, all those things. I really love the way that these tapestries handle those events too. It feels really dramatic, and man, I love it. So I'm gonna put each of them up on screen. I'm sure you're seeing them as I'm modeling, but I just want to kind of showcase that work specifically, just in case the time lapse is not doing in case it doesn't do it service. So I want to start by looking at these tapestries by Mark Speranza. These are incredible. I love this style. In this first panel, with Link's mother looking off into the distance, you know, I love this. There's really a sense of perspective here, even with a simple art style. And I guess that's really what impresses me about, of course, the original Wind Waker art. And I think this totally captures that like it doesn't take much. You don't need detail, but with a couple of rough, blocky shapes, you know, you can totally capture a really dramatic scene. You know, and this tells you, I love all the details with the other, you know, Zoras and Gorons are fighting in the Civil War as well. I love it. I love it. I love that it seems like Hyrule Castle is more clearly based on Ocarina of Time's Hyrule Castle. I don't know. There's so much I love about that image. But let's look at the second panel. Her offering Link to the Great Deku Tree. Oh, the bark texture on the Deku Tree and the leaves. I love the way that looks, that appearance. And of course, on the third panel with the Kokiri coming out, how inquisitive they look. I like that. I love the way that these images totally it's like, and they have like their own sense of style as well. And I love that like Mark kind of has his own spin on the art style. But it's like it's an evolution of the tapestries from the Wind Waker. But like, yeah, like you see the Kokiri now have like small little hints of faces, and I really love that touch of just the emotive quality of these pieces. I guess like that's what stands out to me about this, is that it feels incredibly emotive, and in the way that Link's mother, the posing, and I don't know. I'm just very impressed by that. Very, very special piece. I want to go ahead and look at the tapestries by Mitchell Turek as well, because these are just so impressive to me. He tackled the creation myth, kind of recapping, Din and Nehru and Furore, as it was kind of recapped in Ocarina of Time with the kind of the genesis of the world. I think that tapestry is absolutely beautiful. I love the way it depicts the goddesses. It's like I don't know what that's drawing from. I think that's like kind of an art style we've seen in Zelda, the way it depicts these goddesses, and I love the way it I don't know. It's just like that. I have nothing to say. I just love it. And then the events of Minish Cap. I think like Vati in this art style like totally works. And I guess we've kind of seen Toon Vati before, but like I think that works. I love the cap. I don't know. This is just, I don't know. I don't have much to say about it. I just like it. Thank you, Mitchell, for working on these. This feels like just so close to those original Wind Waker tapestries. And that's just what impresses me. It's like, I didn't know if this would be a hard ask, but I'm like, if there's any artists that think they can do it, I'd love to see y'all's work. And then I just want to shout out the Skyward Sword piece as well. I think that's my favorite of Mitchell's. And it's a more vertical piece. And it's just like, it has so much in it, like from Skyloft with the goddess statue, with Loftwing, with the Triforce, with the Imprisoned, and just how it puts all of that in one tapestry. It's like, I guess like that's what impresses me about all of these tapestries, is they feel like they pack a lot of story into them without taking up too much space on the page. The art doesn't feel cramped. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it just has that, like, it's able to be complex within its simplicity. And I feel like they've totally like mastered that, both of those artists. So thank you once again to Mark Speranza and Mitchell Turek for y'all's art. Really, really appreciate that. And yeah, if there's some other artists still working on tapestry art, I'd love to keep showcasing more of y'all's work. And I think there's some artists still working on pieces. So feel free to and if you've already like made it by the time I've recorded this video and it's released, it may be in the next version of the museum that you see. So yeah, I'm really grateful to have this many contributors, and it means so much to have y'all work on the project. So thank you all for being a part of this. That really does mean a lot, just to be able to share this project with y'all and showcase y'all's art here on the channel. So thank you again to all the contributors. If y'all want to contribute to the project as an artist, as a 3D artist, or as a concept artist even, feel free to reach out via email and let me know if you want to be a part of the project. I'd love to have you on board. So I think I've said everything I have to say, though. I could talk about these artists for hours. I love their pieces, and I just kind of had to go through them quickly for the purposes of the video. But yeah, like I said, I really love that I can showcase their work here today. So without further ado, I think it's time to wrap up the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll let y'all go.